to watch it burn.
Oh yeah, let's give it up one more time. Give me some lights on this bad boy. Oh, thank you very much. Guys, come back on. This is the team from Flow Motion. I want to see you on here. Take a bow. I'm going to bow to you. Yes. I didn't do anything. That was awesome. That's what we call an opening. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of you. Wow. What an opening, eh? Disrupt HR Cayman is here. Oh, it's been a long time in the making, I tell you. But it's good. So, are you having a good time? It's not going to do. Are you having a good time? That's better. So congratulations, because we have already achieved 3 world firsts. Ooh, 3 world firsts. It's not a pantomime quietly, but it's close. So we've had 3 world firsts already this evening. The first one, this is the first Disrupt HR event in the Caribbean. Number 2, this is the first live-streamed Disrupt event ever. Oh, wow. Oh, we've got 2 people watching? 2? Oh, 2 million, 2 million, 2 million. No pressure speakers, 2 million. And the third, and this is what I think is awesome about tonight, is this is the first time a Disrupt HR event has been attached to a conference, a HR conference, and our HR conference. So 3 firsts. Now, I must admit, we sat around a board table a few months ago, and I said to the current board, who were awesome, because they put up with me and my ideas, that I want to bring this thing called Disrupt HR Cayman to Cayman. And they kind of went, yeah, what's that? And I told them about it, they got on board, it was great. And then we told other people, and we kind of got this response. Yeah, what's that? And we kind of got like, so who are we disrupting? And is it good? And I don't get it. And so that's okay. It's okay if you don't get it. Because I'm going to take you back in time a little bit, because there's a lady in the audience, I can't see anything, Jennifer McClure, she's sat right there. Oh yeah, give Jennifer big props. Because Jen is the founder and global license holder and Chief Excitement Officer, which I think is a great title for a CEO, Chief Excitement Officer of the Disrupt brand. Woo! And Jen is a professional speaker. She's been in the trenches, she's speaking, And she thought it was too easy to speak for an hour, giving you lots of information. She thought that was way too easy. So then she said, you know what? We can condense an hour's worth of information into 5 minutes. And to top it all, you don't control your slides. No. You get 5 minutes, you get 20 slides, and the slides are going to move automatically, whether you like it or not, every 15 seconds. Oh, yeah. Hence, I'm not speaking tonight. I've got the pros in to do that. So it's a really tough thing to do because it's whatever goes on the screen behind them, it goes on, whether they're on point or not. But what it did and what movement it created was it made speakers become concise, informative, imaginative, engaging. I can't think of any more superlatives to make what these people spoke about so great. But I can tell you the result has been Disrupt HR events in New York, Vancouver, Sydney, Brisbane, London, Toronto, all down the East Coast, and finally, here in the Cayman Islands. So it's a pretty amazing thing to have achieved, and I wish I'd ever had the foresight to think about setting up a brand that could take on something like TED, because I think it can. So, with that in mind, our first speaker tonight is a chap called Chris Dunn. Some of you may have heard of him, some of you may not. He's a big chap, considers himself a good basketball player. I guess we'll find out Friday morning one-on-one. But he used to play a little bit in college, and he is the chief HR officer for a company where he lives, that I can't remember right now. I'm sure it'll come to me. But what I do know is that he created HR Capitalist and A Fistful of Talent, which is a huge blogging site and shares HR ideas all over the world. He's got a few hundred Twitter followers. Thinks he's a big deal. But he is, and he's a good guy. However, up until yesterday, I believed he was doing a presentation today called Assessment, Lies, Damn Lies, and something else. And then he sent me the slides today. And it's a completely different talk, so he disrupted me. So I'm going to set him a challenge, and you're going to help me do that. Because I don't think doing this 5-minute thing with the slides moving is hard enough as it is. I'm going to make it harder for Chris. And if the other speakers want to join in this game, we'll play it with them as well, but we'll let them choose. But I'm not letting Chris choose. But you're going to help me. So what I want you to do, you're going to shout out a quote or a line or a phrase from a film. And I'm going to make Chris put it into his speech right now as he does it. Who thinks that's a good idea? Who thinks it's disruptive? Oh, yeah. So come on, give me a line for Chris Dunn. I'll be back. You can't handle the truth. I like it. Okay, we have a win. Can anyone go in? I missed that. You had me at hello. I carried a watermelon. So we got Dirty Dancing and Jerry Maguire and Cash Works for Me. Now, I think you had me at hello is too easy because you just walk out here and say hello. I don't know how to quit you. Okay. Nobody puts baby in the corner, but going with that. I love it. Nobody puts baby in the corner. Chris, are you ready? Now, wait, before you come out, I dropped this hat. Now, you might notice that a lot of our speakers are very well dressed tonight, and I came Cayman casual. Yeah, with the Cayman Islands t-shirt. And I bought a very special Cayman Islands hat from Too Hot, support local business. And basically, if the other speakers wish to play this game, we'll play this game all night. And whoever you think got the line in the best will win this magnificent cap. Okay, so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Chris Dunn.
What's up, Cayman? Thank you. Hey, so raise your hands. You guys got to look closely if you're speaking tonight. Raise your hands. Come on. Put them up. Your targets. Hey, who came here? Anyone who's not speaking tonight, who came here for a car wreck up on stage? Nobody? You know what this is about. It's about, like, how many car wrecks are you going to see out of 12 people? My job, first up, is not to be a car wreck. Are you with me? Yeah. Then you got to slow clap me into this, and then we'll get started, okay? Slow clap me. Let's go. All right, start the slides. I'm Chris Dunn out of the ATL talking to you about who to hire when your culture sucks. How many of you have perfect cultures? That's what I thought, nobody. I'm here on a mission of mercy to tell you who to hire. Quick stat, 3 out of 4 full-time employees are open to a new job or they're open to looking. What's that tell you? One of two things. Either culture doesn't matter or 75% of our cultures suck. You agree? Yeah. Let's keep going. Nobody puts baby in a corner. Who's to blame for the shortfall of culture? Is it HR? No. Is it everybody else? Yes, exactly. But a funny thing happens. HR is not really into blame, okay? So we start to do what we can with crappy culture. What we do is we start to mix up this stuff and start to promote things. What's that turn into? Do you know? Turns into recruitment marketing, the employment brand. So here's what we do. We buy a ping pong table. We upgrade the furniture, we buy a foosball table and a pool table in that order, and then we start promoting it out there, right? You with me? How many of you have a ping pong table? Liars, more of you than that. What that tells people when they go to our website is, you know what? This company is a beautiful and unique snowflake, and I can prosper there. But the reality is you're more like an energy drink called Chernobyl. You can drink it, but there's an aftertaste, and it might be a little bit corrosive if you drop it on the desk. So let's talk about who to hire. But before we do that, let's talk about why we have cultures that are challenged, because all of you know how to put a culture together. First thing is, how many of you have bad bosses? Bad managers of people? Yell it out if you do. You've got all these people, right? And dysfunctional teams are a result. This picture, Houston Rockets. Their teammate actually hit a game-winning playoff shot. This is how the teammates reacted. You know why? Because they figured out they had to book their trip to Cayman 2 weeks later because they hit that game-winning shot. But the reality is, if you've got a bad culture, you don't have to hire superheroes, theme of the show, right? You don't have to hire superheroes, but there are some things that all your new hires need to survive your less than stellar culture. The first thing is, they've really got to have low sensitivity. You know those earbuds that your employees wear? They really need those. They need like the actual metaphysical version of that because there's politics, there's backbiting, there's all that. They need that a lot. Also, you need to think about how they view rules. You think everything's stable at your company, right? This is like actually the art you have on your website. Everything's great. Everything's great. But actually, these are the people you should hire. That's right. You need low rules people because low rules people can deal with the chaos in your company and they can put solutions together. But if you hire low sensitivity people and low rules people, my experience is you want to make sure they have, and this is the serious part of it, also high detail orientation, all right? Because if you hire low rules people, it'll be a total cluster unless they can actually execute some of the great ideas that they have in mind. One more thing, okay? Who's worried about this guy? We're real worried up north. Hey, so assertiveness. The last thing I'll tell you tonight that those new hires have to survive your less than stellar culture is they've got to have a certain level of assertiveness. Nobody likes an ass or a jerk, but it's better than having a bunch of people that look like this because you know your culture is rough in some ways and you got to be a little bit assertive to make it through. So, as I close out, there's 3 things I want you to remember if you're not really loving your culture. You can still have a great impact as an HR pro, and I believe in everybody in this room, everybody in our industry. But what I would say is you've got to do a great job of matching, which is what the Tinder's all about. Swipe right. And then you've also got to do a great job at employment marketing, okay? So if you've got a freak show, go ahead and tell the world it's a freak show. You'll actually get better matches, and people will think you're authentic. Finally, you got to work on the managers, right? Gallup says 82% of the hirings we make in the manager level are actually misses. So if you really want to impact your culture, you've got to do better than that. To sum it all up, nobody puts baby in a corner. Nobody! There's chaos everywhere. You're good enough to fight it. And the 11 people that come after me are experiencing some panic and fear right now, but I'm done. Let's drink up.
I'm amazed he didn't just do the mic drop at the end of that as well, you know? Nobody put space. He got it in there. Twice, a spare at the end. Nice one. So if you like that, I mean, that gives you the flavor. This is the speed we're going to go at. This is the sort of talks. And Chris is a pro at this. Obviously, we've got international talent and local talent. So if you like it, use the hashtag DisruptHRCayman. We can put Cayman on the map tonight. It's a Wednesday night. Nobody's tweeting about anything. The Kardashians are not on, right? We can get up there. So if you like it, tweet it. I can see somebody doing it, loving it. Thank you. I might just be your phone you're showing me. Nice. So before I talk about this next lady, I think you all know who she is. She's been around at our conference now. This is her second year, and she's flexible and adaptable. Oh yeah, now the challenge. Now I couldn't see Joy. Joy, did you want to take part in this challenge? You reckon you can get it in? Should we tell her she can't say flexible and adaptable? No, I wouldn't do that to you. What should we give Joy as her quote? What do you reckon? I like big butts. It can be musical, but right, Felicia. Anybody else? I'm liking big butts at the moment. No, you can't handle the truth. Oh, was that aimed at me? I'm taking it. It's good. So Joy, your word or phrase is, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. So you need to get that in. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause, Joy Baldridge.
Thank you, Chris. Woo! Yeah! I've got Bob with me. Remember Bob? His name is Bob, but he spells his name backwards because he's flexible and adaptable. And you know what? Quite frankly, he doesn't give a damn. And neither do I, but I didn't say it right. Frankly, I don't give a damn. But what I want to share with you is how to be more flexible and adaptable in the workplace. And I'm going to share with you positive culture change, because the positive culture change, or the culture code, is what's going to get you there. So, are you ready? Say yes. Woo! Well, of course, you know we have to start with always flexible and adaptable, because of that article that was in Fortune magazine that said in order to even be employed in this millennium, you have to possess two characteristics. And those two characteristics are flexibility and adaptability, because if you're rigid, you break, and what good is it to be broken? And so if you can make that part of your culture code, it makes all the difference. And here's how. I've been spending the last year traveling all over the world. Throughout the globe, I've been mentioning to all different corporations about being flexible and adaptable. Did a case study and found that when people use AFA all the way, always flexible and adaptable, it makes for a much more positive work environment. It's the minor change that gets you the major impact. And also, if they use another culture code, the culture code called the ++-, it can save them 3 to 5 hours of time. Now the ++-, it's been proven that every time you're interrupted, it takes 5 to 15 minutes to get back, if you ever get back at all. Have you ever been interrupted and just never got back? You're like, I don't know where I am, I gotta leave, I can't take this anymore. So, if you have an interruption recovery device like the ++-, you can actually reclaim 3 to 5 hours in your week. You want to know more about it? Say yes. Yes, okay. So the ++- was invented when I was talking to my best friend Mary, and she was in Hawaii and I was in New York, and I called her and I was done with work, but she wasn't. And she said, Joy, I'm so glad you called, and I really want to talk to you. Right now I'm under deadline. When can we reconnect? I said a couple hours. She said, fine. I hung up the phone and said, why am I not talking to her, and why do I feel good? What did she say? She said 2 positive things and dashed away. So I thought, I'm going to try this corporate culture code, the ++-. I went to a client. I said, say 2 positive things and dash away. Say, I'm really glad you called. I really want to talk to you. Right now I'm under deadline. When can we reconnect? The client said, that'll never work. I said, how do you mean it would never work? They said, it'll never work because you know why? I said, why? They said, because we're not really glad they called and we really don't want to talk to them. I said, my goodness. I said, well, I think it can save you 3 to 5 hours in your week. Let's figure out how to do this correctly. I said, what if you said, thank you for calling because you're a polite person? Okay, we can say that. I said, okay, what have you said? And I want to talk to you because guess what? You're going to have to anyway. I said, okay, we can say that. So then they figured out that they actually could say, thank you for calling, and I want to talk to you right now. I'm under deadline. When can we reconnect? By the time you reconnect, guess what? They found out the answer to what they were looking for. They don't need you at all, right? You love that? So if you have an interruption recovery idea, a culture code that you can use at the ready, it's going to work for you beautifully. It takes 2 to 15 seconds to recover from an interruption if you have the culture code I just shared with you. It takes 2 to 15 minutes to recover from an interruption if you don't. So the choice is yours. You want to save 3 to 5 hours in your week? Start using this type of culture code. We call it the plus plus dash because you say 2 positive things before you dash away. But guess what? Who here is with someone they work with? Raise your hand. Okay, you don't have to use all the words. You just say, you know what? Plus plus dash means I'm nice, you're nice, gotta go. Okay, I'm nice, you're nice, gotta go. And you will go, and save so much time, and it'll be so terrific. And then they are gonna be flexible and adaptable, flexible and adaptable. So turn to the person next to you and say, you've gotta be flexible and adaptable. Go, gotta be flexible and adaptable. And turn to the person next to you and say, plus plus dash. And you know what it's time for me to do now? It's time to plus plus dash. Bye. Oh, here's some Bobs. Woo!
Yes, Joy. I'm flexible and adaptable. I need to ask Moden, did she get in the line, though? She did? I know she did. It was good. It was subtle. I liked it. So, who have we got up next? We have a lady who you guys all know. She has been the president of our HR society in the recent past. And I don't know how many of you know, though, she is about to take what's called a radical sabbatical. Yeah. She's basically upping sticks, packing her life up into an RV with her husband and her 2 kids and traveling around the world for a year. Wow! How awesome is that? I'm sorry about this. That takes balls. Like, seriously, 2 kids in an RV and your husband for a year? I think it's amazing. I think she's amazing. So give her your love, Samantha Nera.
What's my challenge, Chris? I thought I was having a challenge. Stop the PowerPoint.
Reset. Da-da-dun. It's got to be something from Star Wars with that title, hasn't it? But what do you reckon? What should we give her? She wants to play. Who was Kaiser Sose?
Yes.
I am your father. That's it. You're in. I'm your father. Love it.
Oh, shit, the pressure's
Sam Nera!
Good evening, fellow disruptors. Who feels sick? Just me? Okay. So, tonight, I am going to attempt to share with you why I think the way we've approached training is flawed, what to do about it, and if I'd known this 10 years ago, I could have saved my company tens of thousands of dollars. Seriously. It was pre the crash. So, if we look at training, training is like a 3-legged stool. The first leg of that stool, are we playing? There's a very nice hand-drawn slide about to come up. Shall I rewind again? 3-legged stool, training. The first leg of the stool is technical skills training. So we refer to that in our profession as hard skills training. Covers things like how to operate machinery, how to use your IT system. It's anything technically to be able to do your job. And for many of us, we have to continue with our credits for our professional designations. Accountants, lawyers, HR professionals with our PHR and SPHR. Second leg is business skills or soft skills. And that covers training in areas like how to have a courageous conversation when you're giving feedback, or how to deliver a kick-ass HR disruptive talk. Now, the first and second leg is where most businesses will spend the majority of their budgets. And they, if like me, don't know about the third leg. And so what happens to a 2-legged stool? It falls over. Nice animation, Sam. So I didn't know about this third leg, and this is where I could have saved my business a lot of money. How often do you send people to training and they come back and they have not changed? It sits in that third leg of human dynamics. This is where our behavior sits. And so you have to actually teach people to change their behavior in order for them to change their behavior. And this is going to speed things up in a business. So let's look at some behavior in business that slows us down. Meetings, for example. How many times have you sat in a meeting thinking, this is an absolute waste of my time? And they usually go like this. So you sit down, talk about what's going on, what went wrong, what happened, whose fault it is, who's upset about it, who's to blame, what are the reasons why it went wrong. Then we brainstorm some solutions around what we could do differently and what we should implement. And then we start looking at our watches thinking, I've got another meeting to get to. I'm back to back today. And can we please wrap up this meeting? And you wrap up the meeting. And you come back a week later and you sit down and say, okay, what's happened? Nothing. It's called a déjà vu meeting. And we all agreed, though. Last meeting, we all agreed that something should happen, but we also agreed that someone else should do it. And don't get me started about emails. When will people get to the point, instead of spewing verbal diarrhea through their computer at me? Rainbow diarrhea. So what's the issue here? What sits in that third leg of human behavior that I've just described? It's actually a very powerful tool, and it's free. And it's our language. Language will change behavior if you use it in the right way. It will give you 50% productivity increases, and it will give you what you need. But what we don't realize is there's two ways to use our language. There's one for action, and that will change behavior, and there's a second way for no action that won't change behavior, and we need both, so it's understanding the differences. So if we first look at the language for no action, or judgmental language, we need this. We need this on a Friday night at the bar. We vent, we share our opinions, we talk about politics, we talk about climate change, we talk about Game of Thrones, and we share various opinions, and it's going to lead to one of two things. I'm either going to agree with you or disagree with you. And it sounds like things like I think, I like, I hope, I wish, I believe, or I don't like. Now, the problem with this is that we use this kind of language about 60% of the time in our businesses and expect that something is magically going to happen as a result of it, because we don't realize there's a second type of language. And the second type of language is what we call performative language. This is going to lead to action. And I'm going to test you all to try this out. I've got that movie bloody line in my mind. So performative language is either a request, a declaration, a promise, or an assertion, and it will happen when you say it. The issue we face is that we're training our workers very young. Think of our households with the kids. They think their judgments lead to action. They say things like, I don't like this sandwich, I'm hungry, I don't like that TV show, and we scramble around and fix it for them. So they are convinced their opinion leads to something happening. No wonder there's a huge gap when they get to the work environment. So, with this new awareness around language, I challenge you to pick one type of language or the other, based on whether you want action or no action. It's completely up to you. Just understand that one will lead to action and one won't. Go back to your work environments. Go back and look at your meetings. Go back and listen at home. Go back through emails, and you will see quite glaringly with this awareness that there is so much language out there that is opinion-based. So, this powerful tool sits inside all of us. It's ready to be awakened. My question to you is, are you ready?
Woo! Samantha Nera.
I forgot the movie line.
Quick, get in, get in, get in.
Chris, you are my father.
Yay! Somebody else thinks that as well on Twitter. Emma Graham Taylor, trained smarter without Samantha Nera, hashtag disrupt HR Cayman. Tim Sackett's decided to use Periscope. Thanks, Tim. It's not a good shot of me from down there. I apologize, everybody. Just a quick one. If you're using the guest internet here, please try not to, because that's what we use in the live stream to go out over, and we're having people at home saying they can't watch, but there are people watching, which I think is amazing. So yes, lots more tweets. I will read out some of the best tweets that come through during the course of the evening. However, I have a treat for you now. This is, I believe, her first time here in the Cayman Islands. She's taken every advantage of being here because she arrived on Saturday and had all the good weather until Chris Dunn arrived yesterday and brought the rain with him. But so far, so good. She's loved it. This very special lady started her career, a really sort of recognized career with Amazon. She was with Starbucks. She has her own consultancy. She is funny, and she's just a barrel of laughs. And I'm so happy she's graced us with her presence. So let me oh, what am I going to do? What did I forget? Almost forgot. What's Carmen's challenge? What's her line? What a what? What's a Henry? A herring. What's a herring? I'm completely lost on that one. I'll be back. What was that? I'll have what she's having. Give that one a round of applause. Carmen, your choice of words is I'll have what she's having. Ladies and gentlemen, Carmen Hudson.
Thank you. All right. This one's for my recruiting peeps in the house. Any recruiters? Awesome. I can't quite see, but awesome. Roll slides. Awesome. So, I read an article not too long ago about disruption, and it said that if you want to disrupt something, you have to actually disrupt the experience. It's not about technology. It's not about shiny things. It's actually about disrupting the experience for the customer or the user. One of my favorite examples of disrupting the experience is Uber. Short story, 5 or 6 years ago, I'm in New York City. I'm all dressed up. I'm going to a meeting, and I walk out. I try to hail a taxi. No one will stop for me. Turns out that New York City taxi drivers are infamous. They don't pick up people of color. Fast forward a few years, and Uber comes out. Changes the experience. I tap the app, a polite driver shows up, I get in the car. They never question who I am, where I'm going. They don't make any decisions about me based on my race or my gender. So what does this have to do with job descriptions and recruiting? I think that it's time to actually look at the experience that we're giving our job seekers. Your job descriptions suck. It's the truth, right? I have read through quite a few of them, and I think it's important. The first thing that we have to do is actually make it about the candidate. I actually was scrolling through, and I found a great job advertisement. Well, it wasn't so great, quite frankly, for a chef, right here in the Cayman Islands at what we'll call a fancy hotel. So they're looking for a chef, long job description. First paragraph, they talked about the corporate culture. Second paragraph, they talked about being socially responsible. Paragraph 3, they went on about an award that they won. All the way down, finally, they talked about what it is the chef would do. Well, what's important to a chef? Food, right? They didn't talk about that at all. So that's exactly what we have to address. We've actually got to think about the things that candidates want to know about. And according to the Candidate Experience Award Survey, candidates want to know the salary, they want to know about the job, they want to know about the work environment. And those are the last things that we actually address. So let's think about how we can actually transform the actual experience of a job seeker getting a job. What's so wrong about actually sharing the salary in the job posting? They did it at Google. They actually, and other companies in the Silicon Valley, they're actually sharing spreadsheets of what people are making, and the whole thing hasn't exploded yet. And in fact, if you're not sharing this, it's going to happen soon. Salary transparency is upon us. These are a couple of websites where candidates can go share their paycheck and explore these salaries and compensation of everyone in their company or in other companies. So that information's out there. Radical idea number 1, share your job information, share the salary up front. When it comes to disruption, Beyonce is the person I look to. Anyone knows, right? Everyone knows that Beyonce is disrupting the music industry. She's launched this 1-hour video, #Lemonade, right? That's going viral. She has launched a clothing line. She's doing all of this marketing that's completely new to the music industry. So what can we learn from Beyonce? Well, the first thing that I learned from Beyonce is to tell a story. Anybody seen that Lemonade video? When she's talking about Jay-Z, right? She's talking directly to us ladies when she's talking about Jay-Z possibly cheating on her. That's what we have to do with our candidates. We actually have to talk directly to them. So let's go back to our ad for the chef, right? Food's important to them. What if we told them about working for our company in a beautiful restaurant where they get to make great food of great ingredients with foodies who were their customers, right? That's what's going to get a chef interested. If you're talking to nurses, they want to hear about the patients. If you're talking to engineers, they want to hear about the difficult problems that they have to solve. What if we actually took that chef ad and turned it into a story? What if we talked about a chef whose name was Alicia, who loved to make delicious food. She loved sitting down and coming up with recipes and pairing wines and working with her team. They cook, they make these great recipes, they taste things, they test things, until finally they come up with the perfect example. And what if in our story we actually talk about the fact that customers come and they taste her food for the first time. And Alicia and her team, they actually sit back from the kitchen and they watch with satisfaction and pride as the customers come and give her recipes a thumbs up. Different, right? Different from an ad for a chef about talking about the corporate culture. You see what I did there? I gave her a name, right? I gave it context. I gave it a beginning and a middle and an end. It's all about telling stories. So that's radical idea number 2. Lastly, number 3, I think it's very important that as we are telling our stories, as we're telling the candidates exactly what they want to hear, that we actually share with them the information that's most important to them. So if we start to talk about the work environment, that's exactly what we need to do. I have run out of time, so I hope you were able to take something away from that. My name is Carmen Hudson. I work for a small company called Recruiting Toolbox, and I invite you to connect with me. Thank you. I didn't work my word in.
Did you get it in?
Man. I forgot it.
She was awesome. I found Bob. Anybody want some Bobs? There we go. That was rubbish. That was worse than my sister's throw. I'm sorry about that. So how can we, we've got through a bunch of speakers already. We've got, I think, 2 or 3 more before the break. Let me tell you a little bit about the break. I don't know if you noticed some of the food that you had when we came in. It was good, right? So Foster's have provided all the food for us this evening for free. And they're going to be at the conference tomorrow, telling us some more about what they're doing. So I'm really grateful to them for that. So what else have we got coming up now? The next lady, Virginia, I'm going to call her. That is her name, by the way. I'm not going to call her that. She is a personal coach. She is a recovering lawyer, and we won't hold that against her, okay? However, she is a fitness freak. She's got muscles in place. I didn't know you could have muscles. And she tells some great stories and that sort of thing. So let's give her a bit of a challenge because she likes a challenge. So what's her line? Because Carmen forgot hers, so we need to bring this on back. Wax on, wax off. There's some great ideas coming from over here. You guys have been at the bar too much, so what I'm hearing over here is... So I'm going with wax on, wax off over here. So without further ado, please give a big round of applause to Virginia Charnowski.
Yay.
Woo! Wax on, wax off.
Wax on, wax off. I've got a confession, guys. I'm really, really unprepared for tonight. I'm going to disrupt events and I'm going to pick one of you from the audience to just come up here and fill the gap for me. Let me pick, are you panicking? Is it good stress or is it bad stress? Let's talk about stress. You go into the office in the morning, you meet your colleague, you're having coffee. We all need coffee to de-stress in the morning. What do you say? Good morning, it's a really nice day. Or do you say, oh, I'm so stressed out. I worked all weekend. Jeannie in accounts, oh, she drives me nuts. You control your day. You set the tone for the day. Do you know that we're bombarded with 174 newspapers worth of information every day? That's a lot of information, and it comes from a lot of different sources. The reality is, though, that you do not need to take every single piece of that information in. You have the choice. You don't need to respond to the email the minute that it beeps. You don't need to check Facebook every 20 minutes. The reality is the world doesn't change that fast. Stress is all around about us, and it really all depends on how we deal with it. So let me tell you a story. A true story. It's my story, and it's all about stress. I gave up my job a few years ago to pursue my dreams. 18 months later, I was still trying to work out what those dreams were. Bringing in no money, not very happy husband. Then my husband got made redundant. Not only did my husband get made redundant, but the bank that held the vast majority of my available cash went into liquidation. So there we were, we had no money. We had bills to pay. Was I stressed? Was I ever? I read every self-help book going, and I even bought my husband a manual on meditation. Did he read it? No, he didn't. But you know, we were faced with this situation. It was pretty stressful. We had two choices. We could go, oh, woe is me. How do we get through this? This is just so bad. Or we would fight. So we looked at the situation that was in front of us. We looked at it as positively as we could. We asked for help and we dealt with it. So let me tell you about the different kinds of stress. There's distress, and that's the one that you all know. Oh, I'm so stressed out. Life's so hard. And then there's actually a happy stress called eustress. And that's the one that really gets us going. Think about it. I've won the lottery. I'm so lucky. That's stress. Then there's hyperstress. Hyperstress is when you take the distress that's in your life and you let it get the better of you. And that's the one that we really need to be concerned about. It comes in an acute form and it also comes in a chronic form. And that's when you go into the office every day and you complain and you don't do anything about the situation that's in front of you. But just so that you know, you can also get stressed by being really bored. So we do actually need some level of stress in our life to be able to cope. So if you're in that really boring job, you maybe want to think about it instead of telling everyone how bored you are. Stress is kind of like a bell curve. Some stress is really good for you, and you can actually cope with quite a lot of it. But you need to be aware of what the tipping point is in your life. Because once you start to tip over and take too much stress, that's when it starts to have an impact on your life. So what does stress do to you? Osteoporosis. Ladies, it causes fertility issues. All those lawyers that are late on in life that can't have children, one has to ask what they have to do. So let's look at stress as an ocean. We can navigate our way through the ocean. Think about the Titanic. It wasn't the ocean that sank the Titanic. The Titanic hit a great big iceberg. It punctured it. The water got in, they couldn't get it out, and it sunk. Stress is exactly the same way. We can navigate our way through the stress of life. We can take some of the stress in, we can let some of the stress go. But if we take all of that stress on board, we might have to wax in and wax out. We're likely to sink. Anyway, I watched this really cool video on Facebook, and now I'm running behind in my slides. We watched this really cool video on Facebook, and it was a lady holding a glass, and it was half full. And everyone expected to be asked, is the glass half full or half empty? They were actually asked, is the glass heavy? So the answer to that's simple. If you pick the glass up and you put it down, it's not heavy. If you pick the glass up and you hold it, it's going to get heavy. If you keep holding it, it's going to paralyze your arm. And that's exactly what stress is like. If you hold on to stress for too long, it's going to cause you issues. So what do we do? Well, stress is all around about us. You can't ignore it, you can't outthink it, and despite what everyone might tell you, you cannot meditate your way out of it either. And believe me, I have tried. It is there. So what do you need to do? You need to look at stress for what it is. My philosophy in life is that we treat stress like we do our life partner. You embrace it, you get to know it intimately, you love it, you learn its idiosyncrasies, you learn that it's a complete pain, but it's one that you can manage. And ultimately, what do? You don't let it get the better of you. Thank you.
Woo! Rockstar. I just thought that was the best getting waxing. I was awesome. Absolutely awesome. I think that might be winning so far for me. You agree? Okay. Sorry, Chris. Anyway, so we're getting through these speakers. It's good. You enjoying it? Okay. Now, got a confession to make. The next guy who I'm going to bring on, I've actually known him for a number of years. He's actually a very good friend of mine. We actually went to university together. And you know what it's like when you think somebody's pretty good and you like what they do, but they're a mate, and you don't really want to give them too many props because they're a mate, you know, you don't want to stroke them all the time, big head. But the other thing is that I actually thought he was really good. And I said to him one day, I said, look, you're doing some amazing work in the UK. You're speaking on some great topics. And I bit the bullet and I said, would you like to come and speak in Cayman? Because I think your message will translate brilliantly over here. And so we brought him to conference last year, and he went down very well, and Dart actually said, look, we'd love to have him back and speak to our employees about his message. And he came back on Monday of this week and spoke to a cinema full of people about some of the messages he shared last time, and now he's got new updated messages for this time, or at least he better have, because otherwise we've seen it. But I mentioned that I've known him from a long time, so I could stand here and I could tell you some really funny stories about him. I could tell you about the time he burnt the house down. I could tell you about the time he cut his finger washing up. I could tell you about the time he went to there's a lot of stories about this guy. But all I can say is that, look, he's been a part of my life for about 20-odd years. I think he's awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dr. Graham Close. And I almost forgot. Oh. Hold the slides. Sorry. They're really messed up, totally disrupted. So what are we going to give him? Being able to give him that sort of intro. Hasta la vista. He'll get that in. That's too easy. I see dead people. I missed that one, Colleen. I think that was Colleen. I'm the Lorax, I speak for the trees. Remember that one. I'm the Lorax, I speak for the trees. Everybody, Dr. Graham Close.
Okay, thank you very much for having me here. In keeping with the Disrupt HR theme, my disruptive contribution is I know absolutely nothing about HR. But what I'm here to speak about is something I hopefully know a little bit about, which is exercise and health. And over the last few years, I've become really interested in trying to quash this myth that there's a single best diet. So as Chris said, I'm based at Liverpool John Moores University, where I'm currently an exercise scientist and a consultant to the England rugby team. And over the last few years, I've become to realise that a lot of the things that we try and teach the very fittest of the fit have direct translational application to the corporate world, and probably nothing more so than the huge increase that we're now seeing in obesity. And even you can see the statistic there that around about 41% of workers can gain up to 14 pounds in the first year at work. So actually, it's not just the office world that is involved in this. The office world might actually be causing a lot of what we're seeing. And what you might even be aware of is you go to a dinner party and you'll have a friend who's seen the light, they've maybe tried a diet, but now evangelical about this diet, they have found the best diet. And what I want to talk to you is that all diets have 4 phases. It's the 4 phases of the fad diet that ultimately will lead to failure. And what I want to tell you today is the secret to actually getting on a diet that will help you in your health, wealth, and happiness. Well, maybe not wealth, but we'll give it a go anyway. Okay, so phase 1 is really important, and I call it the energy restriction phase. And all diets, no matter which one you look at, will start off with this phase. They're incredibly difficult to do. So because of that, you ultimately restrict energy. And think it through. I'm sure you've seen Atkins, where you're not allowed to eat carbohydrate. You've seen paleo, where all you can eat is what caveman did, which again is nuts, seeds, a bit of meat and some veg. And then all the way down to a cabbage soup diet. And I don't think it takes a genius to realise is all you eat is cabbage soup, you're going to energy restrict and you're going to lose weight. The secret to all these is they all must have some science, whether it's made up or real. Generally told by somebody in a white coat. And I'm going to introduce you to my diet. It's called the 222. So it's called the 222 because you can only eat twice a day. You've got to chew your food 20 times. And you've only got 2 minutes to eat your food because you don't store fat in the first 2 minutes of eating. That's crap, by the way, but it sounds good, doesn't it? And because of that, it can become popular. But generally have somebody on stage, maybe topless. I couldn't afford anyone, so I had to use myself. And it leads us nicely into phase 2, which is called the celebrity endorsement phase. And this is really important. It's generally reality TV, it's always reality TV stars because we need some money. And they want to put their name to a diet. And you see magazines like this saying, wow, this is how much weight I lost on this diet. And then what happens is they become popular. And this is the start of the failure. So then you'll see that all these ones like the 5-2, the Atkins, the paleo, and everybody starts talking about it. And the more popular it gets, the more people talk about it, which leads us into phase 3, I can make some money phase. And everybody wants a piece of this phase. This is where the whole world think we can actually commercialize this, get a few quid for ourselves, and see how much money we can make. This is when it starts to go wrong. It normally starts with a book. I'm sure you can go into any bookshop and you'll see hundreds of diet books these days. There's thousands on the paleo diet, all of which are showing you how can you stick to this magical diet, and if you stick to these rules, you will lose as much weight as you want. This is where it goes wrong when the supermarket gets hold of it. So now you go into the supermarket and you can buy Atkins biscuits. You can buy paleo ice cream, because we all know that caveman, when he'd hunted his saber-toothed tiger, ate some paleo ice cream. We all know it. And then even when you go to Christmas Day now, you can actually go and get a low-carbohydrate Christmas Day menu in most restaurants. Now what's happening, it's not hard anymore. You've got unlimited choices again, and it leads us into the final phase. And the final phase is where it fails, you're not restricting energy anymore, and you're back to where you started. And in fact, you can even be worse from where you started, because now you've got an unlimited supply of these paleo biscuits, but the diet tells you can eat as many as you want because they don't have carbs. And you get through all that phase, and then eventually it goes full circle. The diet loses credibility. People like myself tell you, I told you so. Another celebrity comes along who's found another way to do it, and the whole circle starts again, and the next best thing comes along. So I started off by asking, is there a single best diet? And you'll be glad to know, yes, there is. And I'm going to tell you what it is now. This is the only proven way that if you want to get healthier, but get in shape, it will work. And this is a secret. There is no secret. The only diet that will work for you is a lifestyle change. What's happened in your life is that because of convenience foods, we're eating more and more and more, and because of our working lives, we're doing less and less and less. But everybody's looking for a magic bullet. I'm here to tell you there is no magic bullet. Go back to what our parents told us about eating: the fresh meat, fish, fresh vegetables. Pick up the exercise, particularly during the day. Get off your backside. Please don't sit in your office all day doing nothing, and you'll see a massive improvement in your health and happiness in no time. Thank you very much.
And I think you forgot, didn't you?
I can't even remember what it was called.
Remember what it is. Thanks very much, Graham. Wow. Okay, we have one more speaker before we're going to take. It's going to be a 15-minute break just to get fed, watered, bars there, and that's when. But we don't go yet. We've got one more. After the break, we've still got an amazing. I'm going to call them celebrities. It's a celebrity lineup. This is hard. This is really tough, and these guys are doing an amazing job. So, honestly, I'm so proud to be introducing this next speaker, because she at one point got me to do something which really pushed me out of my comfort zone, and that was TEDx 7 Mile Beach. And that was one of the scariest things that I've ever been through, and I'm very glad it's done and I'm never going to do it again. But Marzita Bodden's fault. I blame her for it. But I can't blame her for it, because she is a dynamo. She's one of the inspirations to a great many people. She was my inspiration for getting on stage for her. And I think that when you look at what she does in her personal life and manages to do a career around it, she's just an amazing woman. And so I could think of no better person to finish off our first half. Ladies and gentlemen, Marzita Bodden.
Thank you. I'm not the type of person to swim with sharks or jump out of perfectly good airplanes or walk on rocks that are lit with fire. No, I get my thrills from really intense brainstorming sessions, discovering new cities, and when the sommelier asks me what type of wine I'd like to drink, I ask her to surprise me. Those are my thrills. So when I signed up for the Canopy Tour in beautiful Alajuela, Costa Rica, I had visions of riding in a really comfortable gondola in the morning, sipping tea, not putting on a harness and a helmet, and signing away any rights that I had to suing someone if I fell to my death to the canopy below. I was not thrilled, but I did it. Yes, I did. Now, yes, what changed? Well, I stepped out of my comfort zone. Now, what's crazy is as comfortable as it was at the time, it was absolutely worth doing it, because the cost of being comfortable in that moment was missing out one of the most spectacular, exhilarating, and unforgettable experiences of my life. Taking on new challenges and trying new things that shape us, and accepting and creating opportunities that make us grow are critical to our success in many areas of our life. You know, at the office, you gotta wonder, what is the cost of being comfortable there? Well, an employee who is not challenged, an employee who is too comfortable, is unhappy and is far less productive than their neutral counterparts by about 10%, and the happy ones by about 22%. Now imagine you work at a firm where you challenge your associates to bill 2,000 hours a year. Now, the really happy employees will bill about 2,200, and the not so happy might bill about 1,800. That's a 400 billable hour spread. At $500 an hour, that is $200,000 lost every year on that one employee. You multiply that, you go up the ladder, the numbers are crazy. Production, potential, and profit. Those are the costs of being comfortable. And it comes to achievement. What is the personal opportunity cost of being comfortable? Knowing that we can be better and actually being better are two very, very different things. I mean, let's be real about it. Talking about what it takes to be fit and actually being fit and doing those things are two very, very different things. But you still got to push yourself. Now, I'm all for keeping your head down, eyes on your own paper, and, you know, staying in your own lane. But how often are we ever really racing against just ourselves? It's never really a race of one. You see, there will come a time where there'll be someone else who is almost as talented as you, but they have a fire burning within. And as Steve Jobs says, they're more hungry and they're more foolish. And when tested, we lose. We lose a place on the podium. We lose the client contract. We lose the annual global award. We lose the job, the promotion. We lose the seat at the boardroom table where we all want to be seen and to be heard and to be a part of the change. And then in life, what is the real cost of being comfortable there? John Bon Jovi says, don't be too comfortable because you will miss the opportunity to become who you want to be. Australian palliative care nurse Bronnie Ware had the distinct privilege of spending time with people who in the last 12 weeks of their life. In her book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, she commented that the #1 regret was, I'd wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life that others expected of me. When you try new things, even simple new things, or new ways of doing old things, you discover little truths about yourself. You get clarity about your purpose, and you get increased confidence and the courage to be who you truly are. Now, this is critical, because if you can't be who you really are, if you don't have the courage, regret, that's the cost of being comfortable. How are we to expect our employees, organizations, and key performance indicators to grow if we leave all this untapped potential behind? How are we supposed to remain marketable if we do the same thing every single day? And how are we supposed to joyfully watch that final film as it flashes before our eyes near the very end, and the frames remain pretty much the same? My challenge to all of you is, be a little bit uncomfortable. Be comfortable being a little uncomfortable. Try new things, simple new things. I mean, take a different route home from work. Speak to someone new during the coffee break. Read a new book every week. Write the book. Start the business. Go ziplining. I invite all of you to stand and take the uncomfortable challenge with me right now. Please stand. Let's go. Say your name. Oh, can we go back? Hit back, please. There we go. I do solemnly pledge to push myself to reach my full potential by being a little uncomfortable every day. Yes. You see, the cost of being comfortable is a life with limitations. And my wish for you, for me, for all of us, is that we never stop growing. And who knows, maybe one day I will jump out of a perfectly good airplane. We'll see. Thank you. Woo. Thanks.
Be comfortable being uncomfortable. I love it. Oh, wow. What a way to end, right? Fantastic. That's not the end, that's just the middle type thing. So just before we go and get fed and watered, there's a lot of people that help put this on. And one of the big things that enabled us to do this event this time round is the support we had from Brit K this year. They really stepped up and gave us a ton of money to help fund this event. And I just want to give them all a massive round of applause, so I really thank them. We're going to play a short commercial, and then you can go for your break. I'll see you after the break.
Revitalize your life
with wellness from Brit K. Wellness helps sustain a commitment to healthy living. We make wellness fun. People feel motivated, energized, and enjoy the rewards healthier living brings. Share challenges and successes with support, advice, and encouragement. And our wellness plan invites your family too. In a wellness lesson for life, a wellness plan that works.
Brit K, where people come first.
Let's kickstart the second part of our conference off with a gentleman who, it takes a lot of courage to get back up when you've been knocked down. And the guy, I've been friends with this guy kind of since I came on. I knew him through basketball. I had no idea what he did until he invited me to one of their events, which I think was bubble football and something like that. And I just got to run into people wearing a big bubble football, which for me was brilliant. It wasn't so much fun for the 11-year-old girl I ran into. I didn't know she was 11, and she's fine, by the way, okay? But Kobe's got a great message. He is another recovering lawyer. He's been the head of a bank. But it's a great message. It's a great way to start us off. But I do want to give him the challenge because it is a bit somber, so we need to lighten it a little bit. So what should we give Kobe to start with? I'm going to look over here because you guys are weird. Show me the money. Well, I think that came from Jen. So as a banker, I'm giving you show me the money. So ladies and gentlemen, Kobe Doornbusch.
Thanks. If you do business in the Cayman Islands, then you've probably heard of Caledonian Bank. Well, my name is Kobe Doornbusch, and I was the Chief Executive Officer of the Caledonian Group of Companies. I became the CEO of Caledonian in 2011, and our challenge was to take a small, privately owned financial services business and compete against larger, better-known players in the field. And one of the ways that we did this was to be unique, act dynamically. And we quickly gained a reputation for thinking outside the box, and it worked very well. We built a successful business that was thriving. Some might even say that we were able to show me the money. But in the words of the great philosopher Mike Tyson, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. So on the afternoon of Friday, February 6, 2015, I received an email that changed the course of my life. I was out of the office at the time, and I received an email forwarded to me by the head of our brokerage group. And his email to me was very simple. He said, "Please come back to the office now." And so I scrolled down the email chain and I saw that the email originated from a lawyer for the Securities Exchange Commission of the United States. And his email was actually very simple too. He said, "Please see the attached temporary restraining order that we obtained in federal court this morning, freezing all of your assets in the United States. More information will follow." So I want to put this into context for a second. In 2015, the SEC made 807 similar allegations. That's about 4 allegations per working day. Second of all, at no point prior to February 6th did any regulator or Justice Department or any type of regulatory agency ever contact us in advance, not from the United States or not from any other country in the world. They froze our assets first, and then they contacted us. Now, we did hear a rumor about a year earlier about some kind of an investigation that we couldn't understand. So we did what any reasonable business would have done. We contacted our lawyers in New York, a very prestigious firm, and we asked them to check into this. So after a couple of weeks, our law firm in New York came back to us, and they said to us that, to the best of their knowledge, Caledonian was not under investigation. So how could this have happened? Well, frankly, the SEC misled the court. They went into the court and they told the judge that they needed to so urgently freeze all of Caledonian's assets without warning because they believed that Caledonian was a risk of flight. Now, what they didn't tell the judge was that, in fact, Caledonian had been in business for 45 years. It had thousands of clients around the world, 65 employees here in the Cayman Islands, and a 3-story office building that it owned in downtown Georgetown. After a few months, the judge realized what had happened, and he turned his anger to the SEC. He called them negligent. At one point, he described what they had done as a stunning display of government overreach. In one hearing, he turned to the lead SEC attorney, who, by the way, was fired a few months later. He turned to that attorney and he said, "It's because of your actions that this bank failed, isn't it?" And the SEC attorney said, "Yes, Your Honor." But the judge's words were only a moral victory. By the time he said them, Caledonian was in liquidation and our business was dead. Over the past 15 months, I've learned a lot of valuable lessons, and those lessons I think apply to us as individuals, and I think that they're important to the HR community. I learned, first of all, in situations like these, people will speak badly about you. They'll speak badly about you and about your business. They'll speak badly about anything and everything that they can. Now, in our case, people who once applauded us for being dynamic and thinking outside the box turned and criticized us for being cowboys. I learned that it's true that in situations like these, you find out who your friends are, and I agree with that. But I also found that in situations like these, you find out what your friends are made of. I'm very thankful for the friends who sent encouraging emails to me, but I'm truly grateful for the friends who got out there and fought against the rumors and shut down the gossip. I read a quote recently by Al Capone, and he said, "Be careful who you call your friends. I'd rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies." I also learned that in the times of business catastrophe, the stress will follow you home. It'll permeate through every aspect of your life. It'll come into every one of your thoughts, into every one of your conversations, including the conversations that you have with your spouse. You won't realize the extent to which this affects you until one day your 7-year-old daughter says to your wife, "Why are you and Daddy whispering all the time? Are you mad at me?" So, I'm 15 months down the road, and I still can't understand how this all happened. We did the right things. We acted reasonably. And if that teaches you one thing, it should teach you that even if you act reasonably, catastrophic business situations can happen to anyone. And I'll give you an example. Let's say that you're a partner in a blue chip law firm here in the Cayman Islands, or you work with one of the big accounting firms. Let's say you're flying through Miami one day, and when you land in the airport, you get arrested. The US government alleges that you've been counseling Americans on how to avoid US taxes. You swear that this must be some kind of a mistake, but they decide that they're going to hold you for a few days while they work this out. Rumors of this fly through the media, fueled by your competitors, and eventually you start getting phone calls from your clients who say that they realize that this must be an error, but they really can't afford any negative associations with things being so sensitive these days. And that's it. That's how it happens. Now, maybe your biggest risk isn't the action of a foreign government. Maybe it's a data breach or an information hack, an IT hack. Maybe your biggest risk is a rogue employee who steals from your clients. Now, I wish that I could tell you that there's a magic answer to all of this, that I found the one answer that will solve all of these problems. But the truth is I haven't found that answer. When a catastrophic business situation occurs, it doesn't just affect your business. It affects everything around you. It affects your personal life, it affects your health, it affects your friends, your family, and your reputation. There is no one single answer because there is no one single question. But I do want to leave you with one thought. If there's one lesson that I want to leave you with that you take with you from my talk tonight, it's this. When a catastrophe strikes you, when it strikes you or your business, the one thing that you have to do is keep fighting. Do not stop and do not give up. There may come a time where there's no business left to fight for. There may come a time where nobody's paying you to fight. But you have to keep fighting. One conversation at a time, one day at a time, one speech at a time. Be proud of who you are, be proud of what you have done, and keep fighting. Thanks.
Legend. I love that. It's a poignant opening to a very real situation that happens when we speak ill of people without knowing the truth, the facts, the whatever can come next. And that's very typical in HR. We're always the tea and biscuits and tea and sympathy people where he said, she said. I had a fantastic story yesterday over some drinks with our speakers that just arrived. One of them has a vampire in their employment. I'm not kidding. Like, seriously. This person is not allowed to work in the daytime because they are a vampire and they've medically proven it. You think I'm kidding? Have a chat with Carmen after this. I'm just going to say that. Anyway, the next guest that we have is a wonderful, wonderful gentleman that came and spoke to us last year. He helped me connect with a few of our other speakers at the SHRM conference, which I welcome you all to come to this year, and I think we've got a really good committee. Hands up if you're going to SHRM this year. Whoa! Washington, here we come, shopping, HR conference stuff. But Tim, the biggest thing that Tim taught me was the 9 ways to hug at work. So if you haven't heard the 9 ways to hug at work, ask Tim tomorrow because he'll definitely tell you. So, what should we give Tim for a phrase? I'm going to turn to Tim's friends for this one, or enemies, should I say. What phrase should we give to Mr. Sackett? It's all... Did you hear that? Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Ladies and gentlemen, Tim Sackett.
All right. Hey, wait, don't start the slides. I'm going to do my best Chris Dunn right now. My wife is here, Kim Sackett. First time she's ever got a chance to see me speak in like the 8 years I've done this. So as an HR pro, here's what I know. Tonight when we go back to the room, I will get a performance review. So let's keep this real. All right, let's do this. Where's my church people at? Where's my church people? Let's hear it. All right. Because I'm gonna preach a little bit to you tonight. Can I get an amen? Can I get an amen? Here's what I gotta say. We're living a lie right now. We're living a lie because we're in love with failure. I think it was Timothy who said in the book of Corinthians, lead us not down a path of failure, but lead us to salvation through success, because failure is the new black. Harvard Business Review 5 years ago did an entire issue on this love of failure that we have. And not only that, this month they came out and doubled down and did an entire another issue on why we love failure so much. And so we're constantly bombarded by these messages, right? In the personal, if it's perfectly okay to fail, it sounds corny, but it's truly the journey. Let me tell you, if your journey is filled with failure, your life sucks. It's awful. So why are we so in love with failure? We're so in love with failure because it gives us an out. It gives us an easy, right? If you don't have to be successful, if you can just go and try and fail, then we have an out. And that's not really what we want. We love this concept of failing through forward. If I fail, and then I fail, and then I fail, magically success is going to appear. Well, we know that's not true, right? You just can't fail your way to success. But every speaker that we hear talks about it constantly. My son, he was cut. We love the redemption story. My son was cut from the swim team when he's 9 years old. He's going to graduate next week from high school. And he's set high school records. He's going to go swim Division I university. My wife and I tell that story 1,000 times. Authors love this, right? J.K. Rowling, the Harry Potter author, she was turned down by probably 100 publishers, and now she's a billionaire, right? Anything she touches goes to gold. Stephen King was the same way. 30 publishers wouldn't publish Carrie. They called it unreadable. Famous quote by Michael Jordan, I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. Come on, Mike. You didn't succeed because of that. You succeeded because you're the best player on the planet. You're super successful. You didn't do that. We hate lotto winners. Why do we hate lotto winners? Because they got lucky. They don't deserve it. They didn't work for it. They didn't grind. They didn't fail. And so we say, oh, you don't deserve that. But that's the reality of where we're at today. So failure leads us to more failure, right? But we're bought into this concept that failure leads us to success. And that becomes one of the major issues when we talk about how do we get people to be successful. What we know is what we have, right? I'm a baseball coach. If I have a kid that strikes out one time, the next time he goes up, all he can think about is going to strike out. If he strikes out 100 times, I can guarantee you at bat 101, he's going to strike out again. He's not going to be successful. We see this in HR, talent acquisition. When you call 20 candidates, right, and they all turn you down, that phone feels like it's 20 pounds when you try to pick it up. It becomes so heavy because we know failure limits us to do all these things. So is there a better way? Is there a better way that we can make ourselves successful? I think there is. I think there's a mathematical equation that we can get to that says, here's how we kind of lead ourselves to success. By little, by little, by little, by little. We know this isn't going to work, right? We know that slide didn't work. Failure, we know is not going to equal success. And so that mathematical equation, which doesn't look right on the slide, is never going to work for us. But teaching kids, we do this constantly. If I teach a kid to hit off a tee, and then I teach a kid, I'm going to toss you a ball, and every single step along the way, they have a little bit of success. We know when that first time they get to the plate and a real pitcher comes in, there's so much more, have the ability to be successful. Now, as kids, we grew up, and our parents always told us, you can't eat an elephant in one bite, right? We know, little by little, one bite at a time, you get those little elephant nuggets, you get some hot sauce, and you try to do that, right? And so here's my mathematical equation, right? Little success plus a little bit more success plus a little bit more success is going to lead us to a bigger success. And we know that's going to be the case because we know statistics show if you fail, and fail, you're more likely to fail. If Star Wars has taught us anything, if you do one storyline successful and then you do it 3 more times, you're going to be really successful. Because if any of those people who watch Star Wars knows this is how we do it, right? So do or not do, there is no try. Yoda has taught us this. I want to leave you with this, brothers and sisters. If all we do is get to a point where we can be successful, let that be the new black that we have. Thank you.
Rock on. You didn't say it though, Tim.
Yeah, there's no way.
He said I did it too well, so he wasn't going to do it anymore. Thank you, Tim. So, woo, amen, brother. I was feeling that. I think somebody did put on the tweet, amen, brother, we're away. So I love it. So, next speaker. A lady who lived here for a long time and then left us for Bermuda. I feel heartbroken that she now lives in Bermuda, but she comes back to visit often, which is nice. And I asked her to come back and speak at this event because she does a lot of work with companies around their strengths and finding people their dreams. And so this talk I thought was particularly apt. And hey, look, she's just a great person. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Tara Tweet.
You're so kind, Chris. Thank you. Hello. Good evening to everyone. So this is me in 2004. I had just landed a brand new job opening a Marriott hotel. I had found the love of my life, and I was surrounded by close friends and family. I was truly, truly thriving. But it wasn't until I met this woman, Elaine Butterfield, when she asked me to speak at the Building Hope conference in Bermuda, that I realized this thriving really was hope. And that sparked my interest all around the topic. And that's when I discovered this gentleman, Dr. Shane Lopez. He's a senior scientist at the Gallup organization. He is the world's leading expert on hope and is considered the hope monger. When I started to do the research on hope. So what is hope? I like to define it as being a captain at the helm of your boat and navigating to where you want to go. Lopez, he describes it as the belief that the future will be better than the present and the belief that we have the power to make it so. His research also shows us that 89% of the world is hopeful. They're optimistic, and that's really, really good news. There's also a correlation between academics and hope. So students that are hopeful will achieve approximately 1 letter grade more than a non-hopeful student. And for organizations, there's a powerful translation between productivity and hope. So a hopeful salesperson over a 30-day period will sell more in 6 days than a non-hopeful salesperson. But the most impactful data around hope is that it's an equal opportunity resource for all of us. There is absolutely no correlation between hope and IQ and hope and income levels. It truly is available to us all. So how can we take this ancient virtue of hope and activate it and motivate it and work it and use it today for better future outcomes? So again, back to Shane Lopez, he created what he calls the hope cycle. And there's 3 components to the cycle that we're going to talk about now. Future casting. The second one is discovering your future self. And the third, designing and editing your future. So when we look at future casting, we have to go back to the brain and science. There's been a lot of research done around the brain. But there's been little research done around the brain of when it's actually in a still state, when we're thinking of nothing. And what they found when they did that, when we're thinking of nothing, we are actually creating hope and memories of the future. We're daydreaming. And this daydreaming, this future casting, can really help lead us to kind of our next position, which is discovering images of our future self. We can use future casting and daydreaming to do that. But what might be more impactful is actually to see what we're going to look like in the future. And I courageously did that, and we'll share that now. So this is me today, and in the middle is me when I'm 65, and at the end is when I'm 90. So I don't look too bad for 90. So how might seeing those images of myself in the future might change my actions and the things that I'm doing today? Which brings me to the last component of the hope cycle, all around designing and editing our future. So we had Marzita Bodden, she's over here on the left, she spoke earlier tonight. She shared with me 2 to 3 times a year, she takes 36 hours of a silent retreat. And what she does is she muses, there's no rules, she takes time to design and edit her future. And those are the people that I want to hang out with. Because our last statistic is hope spreads to the 3rd degree. So how hopeful your friend is will impact how hopeful you are. And this is Renee, and she's my most hopeful friend that I know. So take a minute and reflect on who is your most hopeful friend, and challenge yourself to spend as much time as you can with that person. So my last point is asking you, what are you going to do to lay the foundations to start building your hope? Are you going to give yourself permission to do the daydreaming, to do the future casting? Are you going to be brave enough, maybe with aging software, to see what you're going to look like in 20 years' time and make some changes? And finally, to start designing and editing that future. So I encourage you to take the plunge, and that's what I did. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tara. I love that, putting hope to work. Who are my most hopeful friends? I'm reflecting on that for a while. They're all quite hopeful, I like it. But one of the things that I also noticed when I went to the SHRM conference in Las Vegas, there's a lot of hopeful people there. This is why you should go to SHRM conferences. They're in great places, I'm telling you. But I got introduced to this lady at this conference, and what immediately gravitated me towards her was that she just had energy. And I'm quite a high energy person. I like to be happy, and so I gravitate to people who are likewise. And she just had sass, and I was like, who's this girl? And Tim introduced me, and he was like, oh, she's great, she's good peeps, and she blogs and she writes. So I started following her blog, and she's got a great blog, dawnburke.com, I think it is, just checking. Is that right? Dawn
That
Burke?
would be dawnhburke.com.
Amen, brother. But yes, dawnhburke.com. And I started reading it. I like what she was talking about. And she also contributed to some of the other blogs that are doing around Fistful of Talent, Drive Through HR Capitalist. And so I was like, okay, well, we got to get her to Cayman. And the funniest conversation, it went like this. Dawn, would you like to come to, yes, I'm coming to Cayman! So I was like, hell yes. And so when I asked her, do you want to play this game? Because she's from Birmingham, Alabama. Oh, yeah. But she says y'all a lot, but she hasn't got the total accent, so I really want that to come out in the speech. But what do you think her challenge should be? I want a really good line now. We need to spice it up because it's like she's a pro. Life is like a box of chocolates is your line. Ladies and gentlemen, Dawn H. Burke.
Hey. Hey, guys. Now, before we start the slides, please don't think I'm being disrespectful from coming out here barefooted. I mean, much to Jen McClure's chagrin, I'm sure. The reality is there was a time before this conference where they said, what's a fun fact that we can present? And I was like, I looked at my husband. I said, I don't have any fun facts. He goes, yes, you do. I said, what's that? He says, you're the only person that travels internationally, and every time you wear heels, you have fallen down in 3 continents. So I said, although this is a continent I've already fallen down in, I figured it shouldn't be here while we're live streaming. I'm not like a Grateful Dead fan but we're at the beach, right? So bare feet's okay, right? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, guys. So are y'all ready? All right, very good. So let's get going. All right, why is the only way that we can actually talk about real HR is in a dark theater getting loaded? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because we're all A players. We're talented, we're tenacious, and guys, we're tired. Why? Yes. Can I get an amen again? Yes. Oh, and we can start the slides now, I believe. But you know what? Life is like a box of chocolates with your slides. You never know what you're going to get. Oh, you know why we're tired? We're the HR wingman, right? So y'all know what a wingman is, right? It's a guy who helps another guy get hot chicks in bars. So the wingman does all the blocking and tackling of the undesirables, so the other guy gets all the hot prospects. In other words, the wingman does all the work, and the other guy gets all the credit. That totally sucks. And I'll tell you what else stinks. I'm seeing HR pros buy into this value prop that we should block and tackle for everyone so they become successful. And now I'll tell you guys, it's really easy to fall into this trap because our field is too broad. If you go to the SHRM website, there are 14 HR disciplines. 14, from employee relations to recruiting to California. It's a veritable shit show. And then you also have to be the purveyor and the champion of your culture, right? Which means you have to be the researcher and implementer of your software technology to support that culture. How many people have been through a software implementation? Well, ain't that a barrel of laughs, right? Okay, no, so here's the deal. Your value prop should be one thing. That's to be a connector, to switch on your employees to their personal and their professional goals. That is what keeps your company sustainable. Everything else is noise. It should be insourced or outsourced. But how do you cut through the noise? Well, you got to create boundaries, and it's pretty simple. One, you got to get crystal clear on what you're good at. You cannot be good at all 14 things. Then you have to be able to admit to yourself and others what you're bad at and have the courage to say no to the things you're bad at. So let's zen out on that like Oprah would, right? This is what Oprah would say. She'd go, okay, I'm going to drop the things I'm bad at, embrace the things I'm good at. I'm going to kill my goals then, and my boss will be happy, and I'll get a raise, and then you can afford a car, and you can afford a car, and you can afford a car, and you can get your self-respect back. All right, so y'all know the greatest wingman of all time, right? Right, Goose from Top Gun. Now here's the deal. He represents HR that says yes to everything. And what happened to Goose at the end of the movie? He died, right? Or we get so caught up in the corporate runaround that we turn into this asshole Iceman, right? You know the corporate runaround, HR is a cost center. Can you do just a lot more with less? Or, you're really good at firing people. Can you just fire my team? Or have you been through bathroom chats? You're sitting in the bathroom doing your thing, and another person comes in and lobs a question over the stall. Says, hey, Dawn, I'm confused about our benefits. Can you help me? You know it happens all the time. So then we flip the script, and we go from saying yes to everything to saying no to everything. No, you can't do that. No, I won't do that. No, that is the stupidest idea I've ever heard. And then you become the stereotypical HR policy police that everybody loathes. Now, some of you might say this. You might say, but I can be a wingman, Dawn, because I can multitask. Problem is your brain can't. Your brain can't do 2 things at one time. It can context switch, but when it does that, it eats up all the sugar and glucose in your brain. And the cognitive losses of multitasking are worse than smoking dope. It makes you forget everything. Ask Willie Nelson. He forgot to pay his taxes. And now he's going to have to tour until he's 111 years old, right? And when you hear, like in Top Gun, they say, I feel the need for speed. If you're a wingman, you're going to need speed. You're going to need speed to get through the day, and you're going to need a sedative to sleep at night. Trust me on this. So that being said, if we wrap it up, though, you have to hear me, no joking. If you become a servant to all, you start to lose your self-confidence. And when you lose your self-confidence, you lose your voice. And when you lose your voice, missing HR goals means nothing. So here's a couple of things to help you. First of all, I implore you, HR folks, quit calling your employees your internal customers. They are not your customers. They might be your coworkers or hopefully your partners, but the name customer implies they're always right. They often aren't. And some of you might, though, say, but my value prop is in being a servant leader. I got to tell you, I think that's great. But there's a fine line between being a servant leader and being a servant. One is reactive, one is proactive. So, to encapsulate this, if indeed you want to be a wingman and serve all, it's really a waste of your fantastic time and talents. You'll probably get burned out, get angry, destroy your brand, and become ineffective. However, if you get really clear what you're good at, be okay telling people what you're bad at. Forget about multitasking and get rid of this servant mentality. You can kick your wingman to the curb and be the HR hottie you always knew you could be. Thanks.
I love the fact she got the box of chocolates in early. That was awesome. I love the fact, HR wingman. I must admit, I flicked through her slides earlier, and when you're flicking through, it stopped on that one of the multitasking. I was like, oh, what is she going to be talking about? This is going to be interesting. But it was good. I like that. Well done, Dawn. Awesome job. Now, okay, we've got the last two speakers. Are you still pumped? Do I need to pump you up? Are you good? Well, listen, you've got HR royalty coming right up now. The lady I'm going to introduce next, as I said at the very beginning, she started this whole thing. This thing wouldn't even be here. It wouldn't even be in my idea to do it because I didn't think about it. She did and told me to do it. So I'm going to get down on 2 knees. Now, before I do that, challenge extended. So, because she's HR royalty, we've got to give it the beans on this one. Like, we've really got to think of something good. So, come on, give it to me. Phone home ET. ET phone home. Any more? I like it. I'm not dismissing it. It's good. Play it again, Sam. I'm sticking with ET at the moment. Any more? Sorry? Everything is that the Lego song? Everything is awesome. Okay, sorry? I heard thou shalt not pass. Oh, that's a hard one. Thou shalt not. I missed that. Beans means Heinz? Was that? Beans means. Okay, so who wants thou shalt not pass? ET phone home? I think. Do we want ET phone home? Okay, I'm now going to get down on my knees to introduce HR royalty, Miss Jennifer McClure.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you guys for coming tonight to Disrupt HR Cayman. And I'm so glad that you're here and you've had the opportunity to sit through all these great talks because I'm actually recruiting. I'm recruiting for some HR superheroes. I believe that HR has a PR problem. We have people out there who don't realize the value that we bring. So I want to show you some classic heroes and help you to understand what it takes for you to realize your potential in your own hero's journey. So if you think about the best movies that you've ever seen, most of the heroes follow a 12-step journey. That journey starts with a call, with someone like Morpheus. So tonight, I'm your Morpheus. I'm here to tell you the truth. I'm showing you the door, but you have to choose to walk through it. So the first step of our journey is the departure. In every hero's journey, someone is selected. So again, I'm choosing you. You're selected to go and save the world. In your case, the world of HR, and your business, and your company. And in order to do that, you need 4 things as part of this departure phase. The first is a purpose. What is your purpose? It's not just to make a paycheck or to pay your bills or to have food or a roof over your head. Your purpose is to serve the people in your organization. Second, you need skills and expertise. What is your lightsaber? What are the special skills that you bring to the table? Not just the compliance issues, not just the policies and procedures, but what skills and expertise do you bring? You also need to make sure that you have a mentor. Who is someone that you look up to, that you can learn from? This may or may not be somebody that you actually know. It could be someone that you look at from afar. Some of my mentors are actually in this audience tonight that I didn't meet in person for a long time. Who's in your posse? Who's your Weasley? Do you have somebody in your posse that is smarter than you? Someone that is a promoter of you? Someone that is more powerful than you? The second phase of our journey is the adventure. So we've departed now. We've been called. Now we're heading out on the adventure. This is where it gets fun, right? Well, 5 things are going to happen when you head out on your adventure. The first thing that's going to happen is it's not going to be comfortable. We've already heard that there will be discomfort, but the reality is no great things have happened without discomfort. If you see an Olympic athlete that ends up on the podium, you know that before that thrill, there was the agony of defeat. There's also going to be failure. Tim talked earlier about how failure is the new black. I'm not saying that you should clamor for failure, but failure is a reality and it's going to happen. So it's how you act after the failure that matters. There will also be confrontation. Confrontation is a good thing in a lot of cases. Things are made better because people question us. People ask us what it is going on and how can we make something better. There will also be challenges. There will be people out there that when you think you have the answers, they're going to want to claim you're precious. Your job is to make sure that you push through the challenges and that you get the ring to the mountain in the end. The good news is that through the adventure, you will also grow. Through discomfort, through failure, through finding your posse, through making sure you have the right people, that's where you grow, by not staying the same. So now we're going to head into the final part of your hero's journey. I want you to think about now that you've got your skills and expertise, you've assembled your posse, now you have to go back into your organizations and bring the truth of HR to your organizations. You're going to need 4 things when you go back. First, I want you to answer the call. I want you to volunteer to be tribute. I want you to serve your profession. Volunteer in your local HR chapter. Volunteer to help a person who's new in their career. Volunteer to serve. Build into others. Be the mentor for someone else. If you are looking for a mentor, be a mentor to someone else. Be known for helping others. And then you also want to make sure that you are looking at how you can be disruptive. So you are here tonight because you chose to do something different. This is something new. Disruptive is not about throwing things. It's not about yelling. It's about being uncomfortable with the status quo. So if you are uncomfortable with things being done the way they've always been done, it's time to be disruptive. And then finally, you need to make sure that you live your legacy. Heroes leave a legacy. So make sure that in your organization that after you leave, that something is different because you were there. So remember, I'm recruiting heroes. All of the heroes that I showed you today started out as nothing special. So you don't have to be something special, but you are a hero. I believe in you, and HR needs you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. There was no pressure on Jen at all, being as she was the one that said we had to do this format, so her slides were changing. I was sitting there going, is she going to get out of time? No, she didn't. It was awesome. She was a hero. So, I've spoken a couple of times about going to SHRM conferences and the people you meet there and who gets talked about. And anybody seen the film Usual Suspects? Where they talk about Kaiser Soze, but nobody's ever met Kaiser Soze, right? So the first conference I went to, people said, you met William Tincup? I was like, William who? So Chester Copperpot? No, William Tincup. Oh, no, I haven't met him. Went to Vegas. Tim said, you got to meet William. I said, really? He said, yeah, William, he's awesome. He's a guru. He's like an analyst. He's abstract, says it as it is. Really good guy. So I said, okay. So again, I didn't see him. I thought he's winding me up. He doesn't exist. So I invited him last year to conference, and through an unfortunate event, he couldn't come. But this shows what good peeps we have in the HR community, because when William knew he couldn't come, he told me straight away it was all good. But I immediately phoned Jen, and I said, Jen, look, William can't come. I don't know if he exists, but he can't come. I still haven't met him. I've seen him on YouTube, but he can't come. Can you come? And Jen just said, yeah, I'll be there. I'll come to Cayman. Like, this is 24 hours notice, people. And Jen, at the time, I think was on the west coast of the States and didn't have her passport with her. So she FedExed, she got her son out of bed in the middle of the night, as you do, to get her passport and FedEx the passport to her at a hotel, like literally, I don't know who, the motorcycle courier was fast because I think she lives on the East Coast. So the FedEx guy got the passport, she got on a plane, she made it in time for last year's conference. So that just goes to show you what good peeps she is. So anyway, I continued the conversation with William. He emailed me. I was like, oh, William's emailed me. He does exist. Or is this one of these guys from Nigeria and he's about to ask me for lots of money? Anyway, he said, look, I want to be in Cayman. I want to come. I got to make it up to you guys. It sounds great. I'm going to be here. So I said, dude, come on down. Come and play. And guess what? He's here. Yay! So without further ado, our last guest of the evening. But because he let us down, we're going to give him a really good line. Uh-oh.
What's the phrase?
What's the phrase, people?
What are we doing?
What are we thinking? What's in the box? Who is Kaiser Sose?
Step one, cut a hole in the box.
I heard say hello to my little friends, and I really like that.
Hello to my new friends.
So, ladies and gentlemen, William Tinker.
Hold the slides for just a second. So a couple things. I do really exist. I was going to be here last year. I had some health stuff go on. But happily, my wife, kids are here with me, and we're having a fantastic time. Thank you for the hospitality. So the problem with going last in anything, especially something like this, is I'm between you and drinks. That's A. B, everyone before me has already said everything remotely interesting. So I've got to somehow clean this up, get you out to drinks as fast as humanly possible. All right? So we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit today about high performers. And I want you to think differently about high performers than you've probably ever thought about high performers, okay? I'm going to challenge the idea that what we all have believed in all of our lives is that there's standards in HR. And the standards in HR are there for a reason, because we want to treat everybody the same way. So tonight, in the next 5 minutes, I want you to disassociate from reality and imagine a world where you didn't treat everyone the same way. Start the slides. I'm not going to call anybody dumb, by the way. So the standards that we've fallen in love with have come to us in many forms. SHRM, through peers, through peer pressure, through the executives that we work with, that we have to treat everyone the same way. As if everyone's a Twinkie or a pencil or an inanimate object. We have to treat everyone the exact same way. High potentials, high performers, top talent, A talent, whatever we call it, right? They want to be treated differently. They actually want to be met where they're at. I think the reason that we've fallen in love with standards, quite frankly, not that we're lazy, but it's a passive least resistance. It makes everything in our life easy. When we think about objects, like the camera, or the floor, or the chair, or the lights, those things are like objects. There's flash bulbs, or cars, or Godiva chocolate, whatever the bit is, they're like objects. And so you can consider them as like objects. But people in this room, there's no two of us that are equal. And let me let that resonate for just a moment. There's no two people in this room that are equal, or that will ever be equal. And that's hard for us to consume because we've been taught all of our lives that no, we should be equals. We should be just like, or we should aspire to be just like. What I'm here to tell you is, no, we shouldn't. You should actually be better than whomever you're in the mix with, okay? A lot of people ask me about HR from a perspective of what's the most important thing in HR? And I'm here to tell you that I think that HR boils down to one thing. How we retain top talent. Our ability, the board, shareholders, the executives, everyone is looking at us for one thing. How do we retain our top talent? I'm not going to ask the rhetorical question of how many of you believe that 80% of the value comes from 20% of the firm, because I already know that it's true. And I know that you believe that, whether or not you'd ever say it publicly or not. You know in your heart there's a difference in your firm between critical and important, and people that just kind of, they're there. Okay? You know this, especially when you have to go through a RIF. You have to let go of people. Because then you make a short list of who the firm cannot live without. Right? That's when you know. That's when, if you haven't done that yet, or if you haven't done succession planning, which, by the way, no one does succession planning. But beyond that, in your mind, if you did succession planning, one of the things that you'd learn is that there's a difference between talent, important talent, and critical talent. And that critical talent makes your firm. It isn't the old CEOs, people are most important assets, whatever. No, the people are actually the firm. That 10%, 20%, that actually is your firm. You're amongst that, by the way. You're part of that. If you're not, you should aspire to be. Okay? Back to the story. One of the things that gets in the way of treating people differently is we throw ourselves into the mix. I want to be treated a certain way. Treat others like you would treat yourself, right? You want people to treat you a certain way. High potential, top talent, A talent, whatever you want to call it, they don't want to go through the same performance review that another person went through. That's not on their level. Okay? We adhere to standards and say, well, no, you have to go through the performance review. Because everybody goes through the performance review, it's the same performance review, everybody has it. And the problem is what we do is we affect their morale and their productivity and their outputs by forcing them into a false construct of being in standards that we don't really have to have. High performers, you'll see Michael Jordan a bunch because he was my favorite athlete and a high performer. And I think Tim did him justice earlier when he talked about failure. Do you honestly think, I mean, none of us here knew Michael Jordan, or know Michael Jordan. Let's just put that aside. Do you honestly think in practice that he did the exact same thing as B.J. Armstrong? Really? You're going to go to bed thinking that thought, that Steve Kerr, God love him, University of Arizona grad, you think that Steve Kerr and Michael Jordan did the same things in practice? Do you think they were treated the same way? Do you think their lockers were the same? No, of course not. He was treated differently. He was treated uniquely. He was treated special. He is special. He is unique, and we should treat him differently because he's fantastic. The Chicago Bulls would have been morons had they not treated him differently. So why is it in our organization okay to take the Michael Jordans of our organization and treat them like the B.J. Armstrongs? Why is that okay? Outside of why we're here and what we've learned. We're a product of being at this place where we've learned these things through experience and time and forces of nature, where most of that is wrong when it relates to top talent. And I'll tell you who knows it. Carmen Hudson knows it. Chris Bailey knows it. Chris Dunn knows it. Tim Sackett knows it. Jennifer McClure knows it. And the reason is that, not that they're special. They are, of course, wonderful people. They're in recruiting. They see it every day. Imagine reaching out to Michael Jordan on the phone. Hey, Mike, click. You think Michael Jordan's going to answer the phone? Really? You think he doesn't have 7 phones and 8 people answering them? Really? Of course he does. And so does the talent that we're trying to reach. So those that are in sourcing and recruiting deal with this every single day. They have to deal with the fact that you treat people differently based on the value that they're going to bring, the presumed value that they're going to bring to your firm. So how do we fall out of love with standards? You got to rewire yourself. You got to actually talk to people within your firm, both your executives, people on your team. your board, and everyone else that actually the people that are the most important, they're going to get the things that make them successful because their success drives the most value. And I'll prove this for a second. Take your folks that just kind of push paper. And they're important. Don't get me wrong. I'm trying to make a point by delineating between them. They're important. They have to be there. I get it. They occupy a seat. Somebody's at a keyboard. But the value of that person versus the value of your top performer in whatever department, sales, operations, marketing, HR, whatever, is not even close to one another. You get incrementally more value out of your A player that dwarfs in comparison to 15 of these people. So I know it's against everything in our fiber. And I know I'm kind of hitting you with something fairly intellectual at the very end, and I apologize for that. I should have went first. I want you to rewire yourself. I want you to think about talent differently when you go to work, not tomorrow because you're going to come to the conference, but on Friday or maybe Monday because you have a long weekend. I want you to actually think about talent differently. And don't apply the same old thing that you've applied to talent, where you say, oh no, we got to treat people as equals. Turns out they're not. News at 11. They're not equals, they'll never be equals. The only thing that we're in the way of is progress and how we treat them. Thank you for listening to me. Good to go.